In 1608, Canada was a French colony until its defeat by the British in 1763. There are still many French-speaking Canadians. It remained a British colony but became self-governing in 1867. Unlike India, where British colonial authority lasted until 1947. In 1982, Canada became completely independent from Britain, although it is still part of the Commonwealth. Like other former British colonies, India, Australia, and New Zealand.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land. True patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free.
From far and wide, oh Canada,
We stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for
In 1898, four French RNDMs arrived in Canada's vast Midwest and were soon involved in the education of settler children. As happened in New Zealand and Australia, parish priests and bishops in the young colony prioritized education of settler children as being more important than working with indigenous peoples. In Canada, the indigenous people are called First Nations people. There are many, many different First Nations tribes or peoples. In 1972, Canadian RNDMs began working with First Tribe peoples in northern Manitoba. Canada has the largest landmass of any RNDM unit, but only about 38 million people. Indigenous tribe people, known as First Nations people, make up less than 5% of the population. It is the second largest country in the world after Russia. Just as desert-like conditions and heat mean little human habitation in Australia's interior, so does cold mean few people live in Canada's northern areas. Most of the major cities are around the southern borders and west of the country. As the map above indicates, Canada reaches right up the Arctic, and so it is very cold in the far north of the country. About 40% of Canada has permafrost, which makes development of land almost impossible. Much of Canada is fairly flat, so on the prairies, there are huge wheat farms. Canada is the world's third largest exporter of wheat. Canada is rich in resources: iron ore, nickel, gold, lead, precious metals, coal, petroleum, and hydropower. It also has plentiful fish stocks and timber. Unsurprisingly, Canada is one of the 10 wealthiest countries in the world. Canada has the world's largest supply of fresh water. Canada has the third largest carbon footprint in the world. Many environmental issues facing Canada today are common to other wealthy industrialized nations. Some of the more significant include air pollution, particularly in urban areas, thanks to so many people using cars and wood burners in their homes. This means high levels of carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide in the air. Canada has experienced a higher rate of warming at a faster rate than other regions in the world, particularly in the far north and western areas. This is most visible during winter and spring. This warming is causing permafrost and ice to melt. This in turn leads to sea levels rising and more extreme weather conditions, hot, dry summers, which mean more forest fires and more extreme flooding. Canada's vast forests are still being mute without too much thought being given as to the future of such important assets. First Nations people have been actively protesting against the deforestation. Oil sands and the extraction of oil from them is another significant environmental concern in Canada. Oil sands are loose and fairly loose sand, clay, and water choked with a very thick and dense form of petroleum called bitumen. Climate change is causing the Arctic Ocean to warm twice as fast as the global average. The frozen sea ice is key to life in Canada's frozen north. As the sea ice melts, everything changes. Polar bears are moving to new hunting grounds, leading to increased conflict with communities where people are living. Ships are taking routes that were never available to them before. New oil and gas reserves are being discovered and exploited as they become more accessible. Commercial fishing is happening on an ever larger scale, and industrial development projects are leading to habitat disruption and increased pollution. While the repercussions of climate change are clearly being experienced in a various way in the Arctic, the melting polar ice actually has ramifications for the whole planet. As the Arctic warms, it has less ability to help cool the planet. Arctic ice melting affects us all. As sea ice melts, the local communities and wildlife that depend on it must adapt. Indigenous people, the Inuit, are traveling over thinner and more dangerous ice, while ice-dependent species such as polar bears, seals, and whales are watching their habitats shrink, move, and change. Some wildlife might be forced into new areas, many of which are already inhabited by people, and this in turn will upset the balance of these ecosystems and communities. The melting ice will also cause sea levels to rise. Scientific evidence suggests that an additional 2 degrees of warming could lead to the destruction of the Greenland ice sheet in the Arctic Circle, an event that could add another 5 to 6 meters to sea level rise. Such an increase will swamp a large number of islands and lowland regions. Coastal lowland regions that could be covered include much of the US coast, the Netherlands and Belgium, and heavily populated tropical areas such as Bangladesh. In addition, many of the world's major cities, such as Tokyo, Bangkok, New York, Mumbai, Dhaka, Shanghai, Ho Chi Minh, are located in low-lying inland, which could be badly affected by rising sea levels.